Before there was Star Wars Land, before there was the remake of Hollywood Studios, there was Star Wars Weekends. And it was awesome to work at. Way back before they started redoing Disney's Hollywood Studios, even back in the days when it was still Disney MGM Studios in Florida, they used to have this big event every year called Star Wars Weekends. And it lasted the whole time I worked at Disney World. Every May or June, they would have 3 or 4 weekends set aside, and it was all Star Wars throughout the park. It was just awesome. You would arrive at the park and there would be stormtroopers on top of the entrances, and they would be talking and yelling at you and doing all sorts of stuff. It would feature appearances by stars from the movies, parades, shows, and all sorts of other stuff. And as a photographer, it was an incredibly fun event to work for. There would be characters all over the park, and as photographers, we got to work with them and just do a variety of things that we normally wouldn't get to do. For me and my family, Star Wars Weekends was probably our favorite event at the parks, outside of maybe Christmas. It was just a lot of fun, and even while my wife wasn't a real big Star Wars fan, she still enjoyed going, and me and my kids, we had a ball attending as guests, but also had a lot of fun working. There was just so many different things going on. There were a ton of different characters from the movies that would be out, all sorts of different Jedi who you would know, and many who you might not know quite so well, such as Kit Fisto. They would all be out there to greet guests. There would be a lot of the villains, a lot of the other creatures, such as the Gamorreans and the Jawas. And, you had to be careful with the Jawas. They were a rather creative bunch. They would actually walk around with these big sacks, and they would trade with you, constantly trying to get stuff from you. And I learned early on to bring a few, basic ballpoint pens. And you could give a pen to a Jawa, and you didn't know what you get back. Sometimes it might be a sticker. I had one time I got a Disney pin, actually, from them. And other times you might get, a bubblegum wrapper. So, they were always trading. But it was just a lot of fun to be able to go out and meet the characters, get autographs. Star Wars Weekends was one of the very few times that guests were allowed to dress in costume. They would come in dressed up as Jedis. The kids could come in dressed up as Darth Vader and Boba Fett and others. Now, adults weren't allowed to wear masks, and adults also couldn't wear necessarily a hard outfit, for example, body armor or something. But there were a lot of other costumes and outfits that they would wear. Really neat to see all the creativity that you would see. And it was fun just to walk around and see the guests, let alone the actual Star Wars characters that were there. And there were all sorts of other events going on too. They would have this huge parade with all the Star Wars characters, as well as the 501st Legion would come in and they would march. So you get to see all the different stormtroopers. And there was usually a division of rebels and Jedi there as well. Just a really neat parade. They would also have special shows, including Hyperspace Hoopla, which was always a lot of fun, including the dance-off with the Star Wars stars that would take characters in directions you might not necessarily expect them to go. I still have to laugh over Princess Leia singing Girls Just Want to Have Fun to Princess Amidala. It was just hilarious. But one of the big highlights of Star Wars Weekends was being able to have several of the stars from the movies themselves there. And these would vary from weekend to weekend. It would be different each time. The stars would be there and they would be in the parade where you could see them. They would often have a talk session and question answer that they would do in one of the theaters. They would also do an autograph session. If you were there early in the day, you could try and grab a fast pass to be able to meet one of them, and then get in line and be able to meet them and get an autograph or a picture with them. Now, if you didn't get a fast pass, that didn't mean you were totally out of luck. You could still go over by the booths where they would sit and meet people, and you'd be a few feet away and you'd at least get to see them. Maybe take a picture of them while they were meeting other people, or they might wave at you or something. You couldn't necessarily get a personal autograph, but they would kind of substitute in a little something. Instead of getting an actual personal autograph, a cast member would come up and they would hand you one of their publicity photos with a pre-produced autograph on it. So you get that, and there's David Prowse and Warwick Davis and Ayala Secura, Matthew Wood, who was the voice of General Grievous. And so you would see a lot of these different people there. And again, have an opportunity to meet them. Warwick Davis was there a lot. He was actually the host for a couple years, and Of course, Warwick Davis is actually one of my favorites. Yeah, he's short. I'm a little taller than him, which is nice to say, but if you've heard me talk about Willow at all, well, that's Warwick Davis without the costume on. He was also one of the Ewoks. So that's why he's one of my favorites. But it was a lot of fun to be able to have the opportunity to meet them. Now, as cast members, we didn't necessarily get to meet them too much. As a photographer, our role was basically to be taking pictures of the guests with the characters. And it was a coveted role. It's one that photographers loved, partially because it was neat characters to work with and a little something different. But you'd get to be put in situations and roles that you normally wouldn't get to do. The first couple years, I was assigned to Hollywood Studios, and so I was able to take pictures with the characters, no problem at all. Later on, I was statused over at Magic Kingdom and Epcot, and tried to pick up shifts at Hollywood Studios. At that point, they put in a program where you had to be signed off or trained to be able to take the pictures, which I thought was really kind of silly, because what the training actually meant was you had worked at that park, so you got first priority, and that they sat down and told you, make sure to use these camera settings. That was pretty much the training. And so when I picked up shifts at Hollywood Studios during Star Wars weekend, I would tend to make a little bit of a pest of myself, because I knew the people who were in charge, and hey, come on, you know I know this stuff, you know how I know how to do this. And every now and then I'd be enough that they'd finally, just to make me shut up, say, okay, go ahead, go work with Darth Vader for a little while. Or put me somewhere just so I would leave them alone. Try not to be too mean, but, you know, Rob and Kevin and the others that I hounded, if I annoyed you, I'm sorry, but it was fun. I don't think they held it too much against me, though. You would then get to go work with the characters, and that could mean a variety of different things. With Star Wars characters, you got to do some very different type of poses than what you would normally get to do, especially with the guests being so excited about meeting them. You'd be taking pictures of some of the Jedi, for example. Here would come along a group of Jedi. And so you'd be able to take them posing as Jedi with their lightsabers out and, you know, striking a real neat pose that would work great. Maybe if they're meeting a bounty hunter, well, the bounty hunters, and particularly Boba Fett and Jango Fett, they would actually have this pair of handcuffs, and you'd get locked into that and stuck as they were getting ready to take you to capture the bounty. Darth Vader, well, Darth Vader was the only one who could get away with doing a force choke on film. And he would occasionally do that. He might give you a stare down or some other pose too. Now, Darth Vader wasn't known for being a real friendly character, but lots of people love to have their photo with him. You might even, if you caught one of the bad guys in a good mood, possibly even get into a duel with them, or a stare down, or something else like that. For example, my daughter absolutely loved Zam Wessel. Zam and a couple of other bounty hunters and some of the other characters, they would actually wander around. They didn't have a set place where you would meet characters. So as a photographer, you would have to follow them around and try to get the pictures. Well, my daughter actually spent a little time following Zam around as a guest, trying to get the picture. And of course, here was the PhotoPass photographer, me both following that, trying to get the picture as well. And finally, Zam stopped and gave her a real good stare down. But a lot of fun, because things you didn't normally do with the Disney characters. Now, of course, the Disney characters would get into it as well. You would see Darth Goofy and Stormtrooper Donald and Jedi Mickey. I do remember one small problem we had, though, as photographers during one of the Star Wars weekends. Ahsoka Tano had just come out as a brand new character, getting ready to meet people. She'd started in one of the cartoons with Star Wars, and was starting to gain popularity, so they figured, hey, let's bring Ahsoka Tano out. Let her start meeting people, and let's be really creative with where we're going to have her meet people. And they created a shrink-wrap package for her to meet people in. Basically, if you go to the store and you buy Star Wars figures, it was meant to look like the package in the store that you would buy the action figure in. It looked pretty neat, cool idea, except when they designed this, they forgot about this thing called the Florida sun. And so Ahsoka would stand inside the plastic to meet guests, who would then be in the plastic and they look like a package deal, and it would be scorching hot. It would turn into an oven inside of this thing. Needless to say, Ahsoka kind of abandoned it rather quickly, and it would just kind of sit there open. Well, then the guests in costume would come by and see this, and they took some inspiration. The guests started posing for photos on their own in it. And you'd see guests striking poses and getting pictures. And Disney realized, okay, maybe it didn't work as a backdrop for the character, but we'll leave it there for the guests. And so it would show up for the next couple years, even though there was nobody meeting there, and the guests would still use it as a backdrop. It was a fail on Disney's part that actually turned into a little bit of a win, or at least they were able to salvage it. With it being Star Wars weekends too, they also had to come out with all sorts of other extras and additions, and we would pick those up. For example, you may find something like the Bounty Hunter's Guide to Star Wars Weekend. And this would actually have all sorts of different things about who you could meet and how you could meet them, and all sorts of different information like that. So that was a fun little thing that you could pick up. This was another one I liked, with the Jedi training. And again, this was designed just for Star Wars Weekend, and it was a little brochure about who the guests would be, who you could meet. But with this one, once you had unfolded it, if you wanted to, you could actually roll it up and turn it into a lightsaber. Now, of course, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to ruin it. But it was a neat little handout that they would give you for Star Wars Weekends. And, of course, there was always the schedules and the maps. And so you could see who was coming, who was there that weekend, and where you could find them. Now, of course, my daughter, the one year, she used that one as her autographs. Yes, the characters would do autographs. At least if you could get them to stop and do it. Not all the bounty hunters did. But Queen Amidala's on here. There's Boba Fett and a few of the others. The Jedi in particular would talk, but the bounty hunters and the stormtroopers and all them, if you're meeting them, they probably would not. Jabba's didn't. Gamorrean guards didn't. In fact, as I think about it, I think it was basically just the Jedi. And like Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker. But otherwise, there really wasn't a lot of talking on the part, but they communicated just fine with their gestures and their weapons and whatever else they need to get their message across. But anyways, that's one of the other handouts and autographs, which made for a lot of fun. You can't go to Disney without getting character autographs, and that's true on Star Wars weekends as well. The other neat thing that they would do is even for the cast members, we had our telecast, and this would tell us everything we needed to know about what was going on. In the cast special edition of it, there was show times, and they would tell you where different things were, where to find them. If people would ask which characters were where and what was happening, you had your own information that you were able to keep in your pocket with you. Even the cast members had something special. Now, of course, a few years back, Disney then decided that they wanted to change things up, and they actually ended up canceling Star Wars weekends. At that point, people were pretty sure that they were starting to put plans in place for Star Wars Land. There was talk about the brand new movies coming out. And over in California, at least, they created a whole new section in Tomorrowland to be able to meet some of the characters, like Chewbacca. So you could see them there. But with the end of Star Wars weekends, people knew something was coming. And, of course, now we all know that what we've dubbed Star Wars Land, and now actually has a brand new name, is actually coming to both California and Florida. And you're going to be able to have a lot of what was at Star Wars weekends in the new Star Wars Land. I doubt you'll have the parades and probably have the guest stars, which made it so much fun. But it looks like it's going to be awesome. And it'll be neat to see some of what made Star Wars weekends so much fun come back and be there all the time. Star Wars weekends, though, was a lot of fun, even if you weren't a Star Wars fan. Between being able to meet the stars and meet the characters and the photo opportunities, and as photographers, we had a wonderful time. Star Wars weekends, of course, is also where the Jedi Training Academy began to rise up. They would train young Padawans, and this is caught on, it's still going on. That you actually had to have special training as a photographer because you would be scooting around on a stool to be able to get all the pictures of it. It's continued on over the years, and it's going to be exciting to see what they do even with that in the next few years as everything else grows. Do I miss Star Wars weekends? Absolutely. Do I miss working it? Oh my goodness, yes. So neat to see how people would bring Star Wars into real life. The characters that were there, for the most part, you couldn't tell the difference between them and the movie character. The costumes were incredible. The makeup was incredible. They looked like the real thing. And for all of us Star Wars nerds, it was the ultimate in cool. Thanks so much for the look back at Star Wars weekends. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Without all of you, this wouldn't be possible. The trips I've been doing wouldn't be possible. So thank you to all my patrons. If you're wanting to know more about Patreon or how you can support me, there's a link at the end of the video that'll take you to my Patreon page. You can pledge per video. You can do once a month, set a monthly maximum, however you want to give. But I'm so grateful for all those who are giving. It's helped me to improve my quality and improve what I do and try some new things. So thank you so much. Thank you also to everybody who's viewing and watching and my fans who've been with me from the beginning. I appreciate you so much. I'm blown away that so many of you want to keep watching, and I appreciate it. Please don't forget to like and share. All my channel growth has come because of people like you who've shared the videos, who've liked the videos, and told other people about them. So please don't forget to do that. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too. Thank you so much. And after that, I still tried to pick up shifts during Hollywood. Oh, goodness. Because it was so much fun. I don't even want to go there. I still have to laugh over... And you could just see the love for Star Wars. There's a link...